Hello! Today we are going to talk about leaves and the many different colors of leaves. So in the fall, we can see the different leaf colors that there are and the different pigments that are in the leaves that make them change into those different colors. When there's less daylight and it's getting cooler, the plant slows down on making food and gradually makes less and less food. And so there's less chlorophyll in the leaves, and a lot of trees absorb the chlorophyll back into the tree. And then since the chlorophyll, which is green, disappears from the leaf, they start to change colors, and you start to see some of the other pigments that are in the leaves come through. What we're going to do today is a little experiment to see those pigments from a green leaf. So we're going to try to find some green leaves, and we will break down the chlorophyll in the green leaves and see if we can find some of those other pigments. So if you have the option to get green leaves from two different trees, it'll be neat to compare the pigments that you find in the leaves. So I have a maple leaf here, and I have some of the little leaflets from a walnut tree. So these are my leaves I'm going to do. The first thing we're going to do is get a jar for each of your leaves, and we're going to rip them up into little pieces and then put them in your jar. So we're just going to rip them up. Once you have your leaves shredded and ripped up, we're going to have the rubbing alcohol, and you're going to pour a couple tablespoons on top of your leaves, just enough to cover them a little bit. If you have a wooden spoon that'll fit in your jar or the other end of it, we're just going to kind of mush up the leaves a little bit to help the pigment get into the alcohol. All right, the next step is to let the leaves sit in our rubbing alcohol here. We have two options. So to speed up this process, to make it only take a half an hour, you could get a container with very hot water. So kids, have an adult help you with that. And you can set your jar into that. And then we'll let it sit for a half an hour. If you don't want to do that option, you can also wait and just let your jar sit for a couple of hours until you see that the liquid is no longer clear and is starting to turn green. Here is one with green liquid, kind of hard to see, and one with clear. Whichever method you're using, take a piece of plastic wrap and just cover the lid of your container with the alcohol. We don't need to be smelling that. All right, so just cover it with a little piece of plastic, and we'll set that off to the side. While we're waiting for the chlorophyll to get into the alcohol, we need to make some strips of paper for us to see what's going on. So you can either use paper towel and cut them into strips, or we can use a coffee filter and do the same thing. If you have coffee filters, they will work a little better. After it sits in the warm water bath for a half an hour, you will see that your alcohol has actually turned green. The next thing that we're going to do is take our strips of filter paper or paper towel, and you're going to stick it into the cup so that the bottom part touches the alcohol, and so it's starting to get a little wet. You're going to stick it into here, and you can just drape the excess over the edge, and we're going to let the liquid come up onto our coffee filter. One other fun thing we can do while we're waiting for our leaf experiment to start to happen and to change is to do another experiment with colors. So get a black marker, another cup, and a strip of either paper towel or coffee filter, and we're gonna make a black line on the lower part of the strip that we're gonna place in our cup. So just a nice solid black line. And then we're gonna put a 1/2 inch of warm water in our jar. Here's the water. Before we put our paper, or this is a piece of paper towel, into our jar, I want you to think about this black line on our thing, on our paper towel, and the marker, and what colors do you think make up black? So our primary colors are red, yellow, and blue, and we use those to make different colors. So what do you think could possibly make this black? We are gonna find out by putting just the bottom edge into the water. And then to make sure the whole thing doesn't fall in, you can put a piece of tape on the outside of your jar, just so it doesn't fall into the water. And this happens pretty quick, so you can watch and see what'll happen. One last look at the marker experiment. So I had mine taped, and the color actually came out of the jar, so I drew my black line way at the bottom, but the water went all the way up my paper towel and came over the edge, and look at those colors. So that is what made my black marker. So we have red and green here. How about you? What colors did you get? After it has been sitting for a few hours or overnight, you're going to want to take a peek at your coffee filter and see if you can find any bands of color, any of those different pigments on your coffee filter. I pulled mine out. It's been about 3 hours, and you can see the color bands starting to form with the different pigments. So the green is our chlorophyll, and we're starting to get a little bit of a yellowish color forming right above it. And so that is a pigment, one of the carotenoids, and that makes our leaves kind of the yellowish, orangey colors that we see. Thank you for experimenting with me today. I hope you had fun, and we'll see you next time. Take care.